Good morning. Welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph, and I'm the host of this show. A show dedicated to progressive rock and hard rock and other rock genres. Anyways, today we're doing a haul, which is a group of collected items, in this case CDs, that I've collected over the month of December. And so I'm going to get right to it, which is, I'm going to start with this one, which is Rush's Exit Stage Left, a live album. Live albums, I've been trying to collect a little more live albums lately because during my youth I went to rock concerts quite a bit. I probably did about 12 or 13 in the first 2 or 3 years. I did a couple after that later, but the reason I stopped is I went to a couple of concerts in a row where my ears ring for 3 days, and I wouldn't say I became afraid, but I just was concerned about not wanting to lose my hearing, because then I wouldn't be able to listen to music anymore, which was more important than going to the concert. Yes, there was things about the concert that you just can't get anywhere else. The live performance is second to none, I think. The venue, seeing the people up close, I've seen Rush 3 or 4 times, love them. And so this album came out roughly around the same time I saw them, so it was very familiar to me. So I chose this album because I wanted to start a live collection. I do have their All the World's a Stage. I've got some other live albums too that I quite like. So I decided I wanted to start collecting some live albums so I could experience more of that, and some videos as well. Actually, I have about 5 or 6 live videos, and about 4 or 5 of them are the Who's. It's basically one band, kind of. And so I've been trying to get more into that live part. I haven't been able to go to concerts now more than ever because everything's locked down. The cost of them is somewhat preventative, and to be honest, I'm older now, and I'm not sure that my hearing can stand up to that anymore. I'm not even sure it ever stood up to it at all very well. So anyways, this album hasn't been opened yet, but I've owned it before. I had it on vinyl back in the day, and I listened to it quite a bit, and I wanted to re-own it. I think it's a great album, and I'm looking forward to, when I open it, listening to it some more. The next album up is from a band who I just had an album released this year, who I really enjoyed quite a bit. A band that was one of my group of 7. I really liked quite a bit in the day, and this album was just fantastic. I loved it, and the only complaint I had is maybe the songs were a little shorter. And anyways, we're talking about Styx. And this particular album is Mission to Mars. The one I was talking about was Crash of the Crown. This one, I'm hoping the songs might be a little bit longer. That was my only kind of negative with Crash of the Crown. I wish the songs had been a little bit more involved, a little bit longer. So I have heard this a couple times. It's a pretty solid album. This particular one comes with a nice there's a shot of the band and the logo at the front, and a shuttle going off into space. Shot of the band. This is a picture of Mars. Complete shot of Mars. Nice. It's got a picture on the back here of the band rehearsing, and the book is like most books now, a little bit about the band, a little bit about the album, and of course most of the time they do give you the lyrics, and this one is no exception to that. So I look forward to listening to this when I get a chance as well. The next album up is also progressive rock from another one of my group of 7. I seem to be pretty much all of them so far. This album I've just recently done a review on, so if you want to see that, you can go to my lookbacks, and that is Fragile. I did have this album originally. It was the Big Drama was my first Yes album, and this was my second Yes album, and at the time this was their quintessential album, The Home. This was their big album, their big hit, everything, and was considered to be the best, but time has, I don't think this album has suffered too much from time. I think maybe it came down a little bit, but I think some of the other albums have come up in esteem, and a lot of people like specifically, wow, I started there, specifically Closer to the Edge. But I still think this is a great album. It's got 4 fantastic tracks on it, and then the individual musicianship from each member of the band did a short little thing, and I like all those quite a bit too. Anyways, it's a great album. I've just recently reacquired. I had it on vinyl originally, and this is my first CD copy of it, although I think I may have had a CD copy of it before. Anyways, great album. Fragile by Yes. Another Yes album, Union. Now, I've heard some negative stuff about this. This, of course, features the Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe group, along with the Yes group of the time, joining together to make an album. I've listened to it in its entirety once, and it comes with a book, of course. Nice cover, and the back cover is pretty good too. Album is in good shape. It was a used album I bought from somebody for a couple dollars to help fill in my Yes collection, although I quite like it. It's not too bad. Considering all the stuff that they went through and the negative stuff that the press and the negative feedback from some of the members, I still think it's a pretty solid album. The next one up has been called the lost album of this band, although having listened to it its entirety at least a couple times now, I don't really see that. And we're talking about Steve Hackett's Voyage of the Acolyte. It's a good album, mostly instrumental. There are some vocal parts to it, but not many. It's got a nice picture on the inside booklet, so I can get it within the glare. That's the cover here. Now, they did say that this was kind of the lost Genesis album. It came out in 1975 after Peter Gabriel had left. So, it does feature Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford on it as well. So, you got 3 members of Genesis on here, but I don't really hear, like, there are some Genesis sounding parts to it and stuff, but I don't really think of this as a Genesis album, although it's quite good. I like it. Next one up is another progressive band that the funny part about this band, I've done this a few times. I bought an album when I was young. I listened to it. I didn't really like it too much, so I pretty much stayed away from the band. Something that I think was a mistake. So I've since decided to rectify that by not doing that anymore. So in this case, this is Pink Floyd's Atom Heart Mother. I've listened to it once since I got it. My story was that I had listened to The Wall, and there was a few tracks on it, but I really didn't care for it overall. So decided Pink Floyd was out of the question for me, and dismissed them, and probably would have stayed that way had I not found that Dark Side of the Moon at a yard sale for $1, and I listened to it, and then I bought a better copy of it, and now I really like that album and a lot of the stuff like Animals and a few other albums I've listened to since. So but that was like 20 years ago I found that album at the yard sale, so they had about a 20-year gap there where they didn't get any kind of love, as they say. Anyways, a pretty decent album. It's kind of mellow though, even for Pink Floyd. I've listened to it in its entirety once, and it's got all these cows on it, so it's kind of almost pastoral, this album. So, anyways, it's Pink Floyd. I'll give it more of a chance than just one listen to, anyways. Next album up is from a group that I've really taken to heart. They were recommended. I've been listening to one of their albums, which I did a look back on recently. I really like them, and part of the reason I'm doing this is I'd like to increase my group of 7 to a group of 30 before my time is up. And I think this band has a real legitimate shot to be part of that group, and that's Nectar. This is a more recent album by them. I really dig the cover. Time Machine, nice spacey kind of cover. Back cover's somewhat the same. Of course, it's a little booklet, not a great big one like some of them. Got all the lyrics, and there's a shot of the band in their later stages. This album came out in 2013, where Tab in the Ocean, which is the album I've been listening to. It's on my playlist. It came out in 71, so there's a huge gap of time there. So I'm hoping this album will be as good as that one. Hard to say. But you know, that's how you discover what you like, and I'm hoping this band will be one of those bands that make that group. Next album up is the last of my progressive rock albums by a band I've only just discovered. I listened to one of the albums I bought last month. I listened to it once or twice, and I liked it quite a bit. And then I saw this one when I was out on my monthly trip to the collectors. I call it a collector's CD store, because you just don't find these kind of stores around everywhere anymore. I mean, some of these name stores, they don't sell anything really. So anyways, that's this group, Vandergraaf Generator. The album is Pawn Hearts. Looks like a pretty good listen. From all I've read about it, it's one of their better albums. They're very different than a lot of progressive rock bands. I think they were doing stuff that nobody had done before. And this booklet is good. It gives you a bit of a history of the group. It gives you the lyrics to the album as well. It's a little shot here of them and their other catalog albums. But I now have the two albums that were recommended to me, and the first one I liked quite a bit. I'm going to listen to this one probably this week, and I look forward to hearing it. Okay, next album up. We're moving into the harder rock. This one's a little bit progressive, not overly progressive, but I think of it as a rock album or harder rock album by one of the legendary rock bands, one of the greatest rock bands of all time. It's not an album I've heard much of. A couple tracks on it I know. What else can I say about it? I've seen features on it, people talking about the album in general, and kind of going on about the particular item in the center of this picture here, which I'm going to show you in a second. But I mean, it's Led Zeppelin. What can you say? Their presence. So I saw this album. It was a pretty good price. So I said, you know, I'm going to grab it, because I've been trying to fill out my Zeppelin collection. I have a few of their albums now. I'm actually in the day I had the first four, I know for sure, and I think I had Houses of the Holy and vinyl, all those five. But when I gave my vinyl collection to my sister when I left home in the early 80s, I didn't replace all of them on CD. But this one is, I'm looking forward to listening to. So another live album coming up. This one came out in 92, I believe. Features a group that has a lot of energy, and some of their stuff I liked quite a bit. And I thought, you know what, it was there. It's a double album. I got it for $2. The album's in great shape, and that's AC/DC's Live. I don't know anything about this particular live album, except for that it's AC/DC, so it can't be bad. Next one up is a band that I don't know too much about this particular album, although I have heard some tracks on it. It may have some progressive elements on it, may not, maybe just very poppy, I'm not sure. It could be heavier, hard to say, but I've liked some of their stuff in the past, so I decided to give it a chance. It was there that day. I got about 10 or 12 albums for $24 one day, or $25 one day, and it was one of them. We're talking about Roxy Music's Avalon. This group I don't know anything about, nothing, but it was on sale for $1. You can see that. I got it for $1, so I thought, you know what, this is one of those groups I'm going to take a chance on. It has a CD book in it, fairly big one. It's got some pictures in it. This is the cover of the album. So we can get it without a reflection. There you are. So a very good album, probably, I'm hoping. It may not be something I like, though, but for $1 you can't really go wrong, because you can almost certainly get $1 back for it if you don't like it. It's in good shape too. That's usually when I take my chances with albums that are like $1 or $2. I'll take a chance on some groups that maybe I don't know. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You know, I have these two from last month or the month before that I listened to, and I lost. This one, was completely not what I hoped it would be. Completely country western, which is okay. If you like country western, it's probably a good album. I don't know, but it's not for me. I listened to it for a couple minutes and decided it's not for me, so I will give that one up. And same with this one. I was hoping for some maybe tall moments on this. Unless you're really a huge flute and like symphonic music, I would recommend this. So those two were, to me, I lost out on them, but again, I'll probably get some of that money, if not all of it, back. So it's not really a big loss, and you get to try something, right? This band, I heard a couple songs when they first came out. The guy sounds like Jim Morrison. The band sounds like Led Zeppelin. So I thought, wow, that's a pretty interesting combination. And I really haven't heard much about them or seen anything about them in all the years since I heard that. But I did see this album, and I thought, again, it's $1 or $2. I'm going to give it a try, and that's Tea Party's Edge of Twilight. Next up, an album I've heard lots about. I've listened to it in its entirety once on the internet, and I've heard nothing but good reviews about it. Many consider this their best album, and I think it's quite neat. I really like the kind of penciled artwork on it as well. Cover's really neat, and I think it's going to be a really good listen, and I look forward to it. I haven't even unwrapped it yet, actually. And that's Blue Oyster Cult's Secret Treaties. So, looking forward to that quite a bit. Another album, I own this album in vinyl. It was my first by this group. I played it quite a bit until I got the second album, and then the second album was Out of This World. And that's Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, featuring Ronnie James Dio's on here. And I'm not sure, but I think Cozy Powell might be on here as well. Can't remember. Anyways, it's not even out of the wrapping yet, but I did have it in vinyl, so I listened to it quite a bit in its time period, and I look forward to and listening to it some more. It's got some good, heavier stuff, but it also has some of the better, kind of softer stuff by Rainbow as well. Next album is not soft by any stretch of the imagination. A groundbreaking album probably when it came out, featuring a guitarist that's become somewhat legendary. The album cover is really good, and it's just full of radio classics, songs that's played on the radio. But what's even better is the deeper cuts are even better than the radio. Well, maybe not better than, but are just as good. And that's Van Halen 1. This is their debut album. Great cover. Solid album. A lot of songs on here. One of the best debut albums, to my opinion, of all time. In the top 5 anyways. And a great album. Love it. I did have it originally, of course, in vinyl. I think I had the first 4 in vinyl originally, and I now have 3 of them again. And I've listened to it once since I got it. I played on it as soon as I got it home. And remember, wow, what a great album that is. Next up is the stuff that's a little bit more poppy, and maybe a lot of it I haven't listened to, but we'll go through it anyways. The first one I bought, primarily I debated about buying it, but for $1 it wasn't really a huge debate, because I've heard it before. Not great albums, got a couple of tracks I don't mind, but it helps complete my set, and that's this Genesis Invisible Touch. It does have, like I said, Genesis is one of the 2 or 3 groups that I want to do some rankings on, and I'm missing a couple of albums that I've had before but I don't have now. So this was one of them. A group that I liked quite a bit. They had one particular album I really liked, and then they had another album that came out that I liked quite a bit too. I haven't listened to them for a long time, but I saw this, was it called, again, a couple dollars, and I thought, you know what, I'll take this. And it's Blondie's No Exit. I think it's a later release from the late 90s, maybe even 99. Yep, 99. So I don't know anything on here, but I mean, Deborah Harry's got a great voice, so I figured for $2 it's worth giving her a try. Next up, a guy I'm not a huge fan of, but he does have some good stuff, and he's been in with some bands with some really good stuff as well. So I will give him kudos for his guitar ability and his creativity. You know, there's often people like that who, for some reason, you don't really care for them, but you recognize that they're great, and that's this guy, Eric Clapton, and the album Journeyman, which I've heard lots of good stuff about. Next up, a group that I liked as a teenager, not so much anymore. I haven't listened to them much. They do have some really good songs, and that's Fleetwood Mac, Say You Will. The only thing about this album is there's no Christine McVie on it. It's a shot of the four of them. There's a shot of the band in the middle. I think there's a shot in here of them all playing together too. Yeah, here it is. So it looks like John McVie's doing the keyboard stuff on this album as well. Who knows, there might not be a lot of keyboards on the album. I never listened to it. The album itself is in good shape. The cassette it's in is not in really that good a shape. But again, this particular album was $1, so if I don't like it, I'm sure I can get it and sell it for $1, right? Next group up is a group I don't particularly like. But like every group, they have one or two songs I don't mind. This particular group is a grunge band, as of course we all know who they are. This is a what do they call it? A collection of songs, compilation, compilation. Yeah, compilation album. It's got most of the songs that we would know by them. So that's good enough for me for this group. I will listen to them, and maybe I'll get some enjoyment out of it. And if I don't, I can get rid of it. Next group I liked quite a bit when I was younger. When I say younger, like almost, to me, this is almost pre-rock era for me. I think it might be because I remember listening to these guys with my cousin driving along the road to the Mel Hervey Beach in Nova Scotia, and she was a big fan of these guys. And I saw this album, and it's one of the original albums too. It was put on CD. It's got nothing special about it other than the 10 tracks that were originally on the album, and that's the Beach Boys all summer long. It was the first Beach Boy album that didn't have beach in its title. But it's got some good stuff on it, and the Beach Boys are not a group I listen to a lot, but every once in a while I feel like it, a certain mood, so I'll give that a good listen to. Here's another one. I bought it based on the musician that sings in the group, just by his face. I tend to be like that. If somebody's done good stuff in the past, I will give them a shot, sometimes to my regret, and this could be one of those times. I'm not sure. This is Sting, Brand New Day. I haven't listened to anything on this album. Don't know anything about it. It looks like he was fairly young here, so it's not too far off from his release date, so hopefully it's not too bad. This album, when I seen it, I passed on it, and then I came back to it, and then I passed on it again, and then I thought, it's $1. Just get it. Listen to it. If you don't like it, just get rid of it. I liked some of the stuff on their earlier albums. The album's in great shape. CD's in good shape. It's one of their biggest selling albums, Def Leppard's Hysteria. But I've heard a lot of negative stuff about it. A lot. More than most albums. And I know it's quite poppy. But, get at least one listen. And then if it's no good, it goes back into the $1 box. I mean, I could probably get more than $1 for it too, so I might actually win on that album. Okay, the last three are from one band. One of them I've already done a look back at. You can go back and look at it, and that's this album, Let It Be. I'm not going to say too much about it because you can see that in the thing. good album. Nice picture of the guys. It's in good shape. And the biggest thing about this one and the next two is I got them from one person, and they were in great shape, and I got them all for like $5 or $6 total for the 3 albums. You know, usually it's $20 for these guys, easily. Anyways, the next one is this one. Another Beatles album. Rubber Soul is the cover. Picture of the guys. This was right around the beginning of their psychedelic era. There are some kind of poppy stuff on here, but it has a lot of the beginnings of that kind of acid rock era, or psychedelic era if you prefer. Paul. Picture of the band again. George. Another couple pictures of the band. So, you know, pretty solid album, and in some regards I think this is probably arguably my favorite Beatles album. And there's one other album that, you know, maybe I like better, but there's some really good stuff on here, and some very innovative stuff on here too. This was the beginning of their inventive type of era for them, and they were breaking away from their pop roots. Fantastic album. This is the other one, Beatles Please Please Me. It's the pop era, a collection of all their pops at the time. It's got some really good stuff on here if you like poppy Beatles, and I do like listening to their poppy stuff sometimes. You know, Twist and Shout is on here, Love Me Do, Please Please Me, and some, you know, just look through here, man, some good stuff on here. This is one reason, you know, you see a group like this. Obviously that picture is also on the Red album. So this is a, to me, for $2, you can't go wrong. Released in 1963, yes. Beatles, I got them all for a good deal. There was one other album the person had, which I really was, I so debated taking it, was the Help album, but it was in pretty bad condition. This one is not in great condition. It's not bad though. It's passable. Very borderline passable. The other one was not. And unfortunately, it's just too bad because I really wanted it. But that's what happens. I got 3 Beatle albums for $6. Not too many people can say that. The next 2 albums are not really rock albums. Although one of them's got a little bit of rock, original rock to it. This one I think of more as pop music and dance music and whatever you want to call it. However, I really enjoyed this artist's first 2 albums. They're among 2 of my favorite albums. Well, not favorite, but definitely top 100 albums. And that's this one by Rihanna. Girl Gone Bad is the 3rd album. Was the one I was looking for. I got it when I was getting the Beatle albums too, and got it from her. This is when she was fantastic. Now, I'm hoping this is more like the first 2 albums and not so much like the stuff she's done later. But I think it is, so I think it'll be a good listen to. One of the very few modern day artists that I really like quite a bit that aren't really pop. This guy, I liked him a lot when I was a kid. He goes back to that Beach Boy thing I was talking about. When I was still kind of listening to the stuff my parents listened to. They had a thing for country music. They also had a thing for 50s rock and crooner music, and he's kind of a 50s crooner type guy, and that's Sam Cooke. This is a collection, but I've had this before on vinyl. I've had it on cassette, and now I have it on CD. A really good listen to if you like that kind of bluesy, kind of rocky crooner type music. Sam Cooke is right up there, right at the top in my estimation. So there you have it. That's what I collected over the past month. Lots of stuff to listen to. Some of it I have, some of it I'm looking forward to. Some of these we'll be doing look backs on. A couple of them I've already done look backs on, so I'm hoping you enjoyed this video and look forward to me doing more of such things. If you really like what I'm doing, please like in the bottom and make comments if you want. I've had recent comments that I've enjoyed discussing with people over certain things that I've discussed. And of course, it would be nice if you subscribe. The more subscribers I get, the closer I get to getting some kind of a return, so I can buy more of this stuff, because this stuff isn't cheap. But I like doing it, so I'm going to do it and continue to do it. So have a good day. Anyways, Merry Christmas to all of you. I hope you have a good holiday season. You'll be doing quite a few videos over this course of time, so there'll be lots to look at, and I hope to see some of you or talk to some of you online. So have a good day. From Prog Monster out.